All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. And we are here with special guest Eric from the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast. So, in our second segment here, we are going to be talking about our playoff predictions for the season. Season's coming up very, very close, so excited to talk about this. And Eric, why don't you go first? Start off with who you got making the playoffs this year.
All right, first from the National League, I have my number one seed to make that first playoff bye. It's going to be the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves has been consistently good. They're they're neck and neck. With my number two is going to be the Dodgers, like what we talked about earlier in the last segment, how they just have all this firepower and they're ready to make a push, and they were always that just a beat short. And hopefully, with all the acquisitions they made during the off season, they can, kind of handle the season pretty solemnly, like not like freaking out during the end of the season or, kind of becoming recluse during the playoffs. And then number third, I kind of have the Diamondbacks coming back. That was a really, really good run that they made. They started off sweeping the Dodgers, and they just kept impressing and impressing to beat the Phillies. Like, it was absolutely insane what they did. And you have a lot of those young talent that is going to be coming back and probably coming back for years to come. So I can just see that Diamondback team getting better and better. In the fourth seed, I have the Phillies coming back. They, it seems like every like season they kind of make a push. They kind of regress a little bit. But I know they have a really good team. Obviously, the city of Philadelphia has, an NFL, NBA, like their teams are always like very, very good, especially with all the fanatic pressure and stuff like that they're under. But I think this year the Phillies are probably going to do better. And going to number five, I have the Milwaukee Brewers. Once again, a group of young guys led by Christian Yelich, and they have a pretty nice bullpen. They have a pretty nice, starting rotation. They're probably going to be. Honestly, if I was one of them, I would probably maybe dig for another starting pitcher to kind of cement, kind of stability inside their pitching organization. And then number six, I have the San Diego Padres. Lately, the San Diego Padres, they got, they have Fernando Tatis Jr. and they have Manny Machado. And it feels like out of all the teams in Major League Baseball, they have kind of been, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but they've kind of been like the biggest kind of like letdown, where a couple of seasons ago during their offseason, they kind of did what the Dodgers were doing now. They made a lot of acquisitions over the offseason, paid a lot of money for these big stars, and they came up short in the last couple of seasons. So you can expect them to bounce back in San Diego.
Okay, so I mostly agree with what you have. So for me personally, as the best team in the NL, I have the Dodgers. You had the number two, so it's not anything crazy here. It's like what we talked about, the Dodgers, just the incredible offseason they had. I mean, again, you put it, wow, I think that's a really good estimate of what it was. Ohtani, Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, Tyler Glass now, so I do have the number one. Number two, I have the Braves. No surprise here again. Dodgers and Braves, as you talked about, I think they're pretty easily the two elite teams in the National League. They didn't do that much this offseason. Adding Chris Sale, I think, was a nice get. But overall, the team is just incredible. The lineup's incredible. And every young player they do get, they extend, so they're not going to be leaving for a little while. So I have the Dodgers number two. As the third best team in the National League, I have also the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks had an amazing season last year, making the World Series when really nobody expected them to. So I have the number three. I love what they did this offseason. They added Eugenio Suarez. They added Eduardo Rodriguez, Jock Peterson to the DH position. So I love what they did this offseason, building off of their World Series run. So I was really excited for them. Number four, I have also the Philadelphia Phillies. I think the Phillies are a great team. They didn't add much this offseason, but kind of like the Braves, they didn't really need to. They re-signed Aaron Nola, which is pretty great. Zach Wheeler's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Aaron Nola's great. Ranger Suarez is great. The back end of that pitching staff needs a little bit of help, but I think their bullpen's great. I think the rotation, I think the lineup is pretty amazing. I mean, of course, you have Bryce Harper there. You have so many other great guys as well. So, and then number six, the team I have winning the NL Central is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. So we disagree on this, obviously. So I love the Reds' young team. I think they have a lot of great young talent. I think really led by that infield core. They have lost some people, with Novelli Marte, one of the top prospects, being suspended for steroids, and losing another top prospect to injury. But they still have great talent, I think, with players like Spencer Steer, Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McLean, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and some other great veteran players as well. I love what they did to the pitching staff, signing Frankie Montas, having Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo there. So, yeah, we do agree in the NL Central. So you did mention about the Brewers. So I'm not as high in the Brewers as you personally. Obviously they did kind of gear towards trading some people. They traded their best player in Corbin Burns this offseason. So he got traded to Baltimore, which was a big decrease to their pitching staff. So I would agree with you. I think if they do want to compete, they should definitely add another pitcher to that pitching staff 100%. So I would agree in that case. They did make some nice additions, though, like adding Rhys Hoskins. I thought that was a great addition. So, and Yelich, of course, is great. He had a nice bounce-back season. So, yeah, overall, I think I also missed one, which might have been the Padres. So I also have the Padres making the playoffs. I love what they did towards the end of the offseason, adding Dylan Cease. I think he's a really great pitcher and a guy who really helps legitimize that pitching staff. Of course, Tatis is an amazing talent. Machado is an amazing talent. Ha-Seong Kim is a great player as well. Of course, they have Xander Bogaerts even. So they have top prospect Jackson Merrill, who I really love. So I'm really high on the Padres as well. So, yeah, just those are my thoughts. So why did you have some of the teams you had missing it, like the Giants, for example? Why did you not have them making it? I didn't have them making it either, but I'm curious for your reasoning.
San Francisco, they within the last couple of decades they've had their handful of championships, but honestly I kind of not like their time is like short or when it comes to like the MLB success, but it's that regression where people expect these teams to be really really good, but then you have young teams coming up, like I mentioned, like the Padres are kind of on their way back. The Diamondbacks, the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Braves, and all the Dodgers, the 6 teams that I kind of picked for the NL, I feel like they kind of want it more, especially the Dodgers organization and what they did during the offseason. But the Giants are always, they always have a good baseball team. If you pay attention to the MLB season, usually the NL Western Division is always it's always so tight, and this year it's not going to disappoint. So,
yeah, definitely. So for the Giants, for me, they were the number. If there were 7 teams, I'd have the Giants in the playoffs. They just missed for me. I think it was really between them and the Padres. I did really love what they did this offseason. I think they added a lot of nice players. Jung-Hoo Lee from Korea is a really nice guy. Jorge Soler is a great power bat. They also added some pitchers as well. They just added Matt Chapman, who was a late addition, so that was a nice one. So for me, what the Giants really lack is a big star. For me, they have a lot of great players. They have a lot of great players, including, I forgot to even mention Blake Snell, who won the Cy Young. They added him. So they added a lot of great players, but I think they are missing that big star, that franchise guy. I mean, of course, with the Padres, you have Tatis and Machado. You have, before that, the Dodgers, of course, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, the Braves, Acuna. So I think when you look at these teams above them, the Giants don't really have that guy you can point to and say, hey, that's an MVP candidate year in and year out. So I think that is something the Giants kind of are missing. So that's why I didn't have them making the playoffs. So now I'm curious about one other team. I'm curious about the Cubs as well. The Cubs are a team I was very close to naming as the winner of the NL Central, but I have them second. I had the Reds coming in first. So what are your overall thoughts on the Cubs and what they're trying to do and trying to make it back to relevancy?
Once again, it's kind of like that that there's so many good young teams that are trying to make a name for themselves. And when you were mentioning the Reds, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. I kind of wish I would have put them, higher on the list now. But I don't know, I like the Cubbies, they're honestly, I love watching the games. Like Wrigley Field is just such a beautiful park downtown Chicago, and there's obviously been a lot of great players come from the Cubs, but I don't know. I guess I'm not as a Cubs believer, but I don't know. Maybe Chi-Town will produce a winner, either the White Sox or the Cubs for coming back into the playoffs.
Yeah, I was really close to naming the Cubs as the NL Central winner. I think they need to do a little bit more this offseason, personally, for me. they did have a big splash in the first half, adding Craig Counsell as their manager, which is a huge shock to everyone. So I think they added a nice piece there to manager. Not really a player, but still important, I think. So other than that, just one more team I'm wondering, a team I was close to naming in the playoffs. So one of the most confusing teams, I'd say, in all of baseball, which is the New York Mets. So what are your thoughts? I was close to having them make the playoffs. I did have to put my bias aside a little bit just to have them miss the playoffs. But, yeah, so what are your overall thoughts on the Mets and just the kind of turbulent few seasons they've had now?
I think they have all the talent in the world. I just think that there's, I don't want to say like front office, problem, but I know a couple of seasons ago where they basically borrowed Justin Verlander from the Astros. And I don't know, like that whole thing kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, what kind of organization would do that, especially spend all this money to like it feels like they try so hard to achieve. And sometimes, like even in life, like sometimes if you try like super hard, like it doesn't quite like kind of compute. But sometimes you just gotta let your players like do the kind of do your bidding for you instead of being like a general manager and constantly nitpicking and signing and trading and signing. I guess like just like the inconsistent, like if a franchise isn't stable starting from the front office, then I think down the hatch, doesn't matter how much talent you have, it doesn't matter how much how many ticket sales, like you need that to be able to have like a successful season in a baseball team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And watching it firsthand as a Mets fan, the last few seasons were a little bit of kind of, you didn't really know what was going on a lot. The Verlander thing was, of course, it was, in my opinion, it was kind of funny. We signed him to a big contract, 2 years, like 100 million or 90 million or whatever, something like that. And then we trade him back to the Astros like 6 months later, which was a really just interesting situation that ended up happening. I do think the Mets have kind of tried fixing that now. They did bring over David Stearns as their new president of baseball operations from Milwaukee, a guy who is from New York, and I think he does know what he's talking about. He knows a lot about baseball.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, we've seen the Brewers, as you talked about, we've seen the Brewers over the past few years be very competitive always, and I think bringing that expertise over to the Mets is going to help kind of make that organization a little bit more competent, because it hasn't been, frankly, for the past few years. I mean, they've gone over manager after manager, general manager after general manager. So I think bringing over these kind of guys will definitely help with the organization and the direction it is going. So
yeah, definitely, they're good. They're a great baseball team. Every single time you see them on TV, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like they have a chance, but then stuff unfolds during play, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, they're the Mets. No, I'm just like not trying to pull any strings, but no, like they're a really good baseball team that could be they could be pretty high end.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree. I think we have all the talent in the world. Of course, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, even the young guys are starting to come up now. We have like Francisco Alvarez, Brandon Nimmo. We have, so I think I think we have a lot of talent, but in the end, it is just putting it together, having a good season, and finishing. I think injuries have hurt us a lot in the past few years as well. Already this year with Senga getting hurt. So I think just putting it together and having a nice season would be great. And
of course,
that's really what I'm looking forward to. I think the Mets do have a good team this season, but I think there are, frankly, just teams better than them. I mean, the Padres, I think, are better. I think the Phillies are better. I think the Diamondbacks are better. Of course, the Dodgers and Braves are better. So I think it's just simply that not being up to the level of these kind of teams. So, but I am looking forward to seeing what the Mets do this year. And whatever we know about the Mets, we know it won't be boring. We know something will happen with them. That's
exactly.
interesting. So,
I agree 110%.
Yeah. All right. So that was the end of segment 2. That was the end of our playoff predictions for this year. Season does start on Thursday, so I'm really excited to watch that, of course. So I want to thank Eric for joining our show today. You can catch his podcast, the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. Western. So thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you so much for running the show.
All right, my man. Thank you for having me. Good luck, Mets.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck, Angels. All right. So, there we go. We're now going to go back here. All right, we're back here. So that was our second segment, of course. Thank you again, Eric, for joining our show. So we're going to move into our third segment here, which is going to be about the spring training standings and it being spring training is ending today. So I would like to just go over the final spring training standings, give or take 1 or 2 games, because the season is ending today and games are going on as I stream. So we'll be talking about that, and I'm interested to show my takeaways from it. So yeah, we'll go over that, and we'll see you after that. So thanks and bye.